Being content doesn't mean you don't desire more. Being content just means you are thankful for what you have and you're patient for what's to come. So if you are over 50, 60, 70, or beyond, and you are hoping that love finds you again, don't give up hope. Listen to my story about how love found me at the age of 64. I'm Esther. I did an earlier video about being patient in waiting for love and not making the same mistake that I did, hoping that you will learn from my mistake. And just to recap a real quick history of that, I was widowed at the age of 41. And by the age of 52, I had been very content in my single life. But I started having those nagging feelings, thinking, you're not getting any younger, Esther. Maybe you better be getting married. I mean, who wants to date a 50-year-old woman? In a nutshell, I settled and got married. We parted ways 3 years afterward. I convinced myself I was in love because I think I was afraid of being single after the age of 50. I sounded so old. But after that divorce, I threw myself into making new friends, living my life content once again, like I had been for 11 years before I made that mistake and settled. So I did build another network of single friends. I really bonded with one special friend. That was back in 2012. So I was talking to her one day, and we were doing some of our activities that we often did, out hiking or something, I think it was. And I told her, I said, I really am totally content with my single life. I love my life. I had a job that I loved. I worked for 26 years for my boss doing as a legal assistant, doing mostly personal injury and workers' comp. I had wonderful friends, and I had 4 awesome sons and their wives and my grandchildren. I enjoyed life. So, what was missing? I began to think, I am totally content in my life. But I told her, I says, but it would be kind of nice to have somebody special to share it with. Even though I wasn't dating much, I did have a profile on one of the dating sites. Oddly enough, it was called Plenty of Fish. It was a free dating site. And I was about to I lived in Southern Oregon, and I was about to go to Olympia, Washington for a niece's wedding. So I decided, just for the heck of it, I'm going to look to see if there's any eligible bachelors in that area. I scrolled through, not seeing anything, and as I was about to shut the computer off, I saw this one profile that popped up. And he was attractive looking, and I don't remember what the title of his profile said, but it caught my attention. And so I scrolled through his profile. We had so many things in common. I wrote this little note to him, and I said, too bad you live so far away, because I really didn't want to have a long distance relationship. I tried that for a short time and it didn't work. So I debated after typing that out, should I hit send or should I hit delete? I was leaning toward delete because I thought, what's the purpose? I don't want a long distance relationship. He's 400 or 500 miles from me. He lived on a little island, Anderson Island, in the Puget Sound. But I kept thinking, maybe I will. So I didn't delete it. I went away from my computer for a while, and a little bit later I came back and I thought, what does it hurt? He probably won't even respond. So I hit send. And I tell you, it felt like a high school girl and all those giddy feelings. Oh, but now will he just not respond? And then I'm going to feel rejected. Or will he answer me and say, yeah, you're right, you're too far away, you know, I'm not interested in a long distance relationship either? Or what if he was interested? Then what would I do? So I kept an eye on the computer, being a little nervous about the response. And then finally I heard my computer ding. And like the movie, you got mail, the little message pops up. So again, my heart started beating and it's like, okay, now what, Esther? So I went over very nervous about looking at his response. So I very nervously opened his message. And I had to chuckle because he said something on the lines of, thank you for writing, but I think you have that backwards. You're the one that lives too far away. And he went on to say, we do have a lot of things in common. And by looking at your profile, it looks like you get up to this area a lot, which I did because my son lives in Seattle. And so I do go up to the Puget Sound area. So he said, if you come up this way again sometime, maybe we can get together for coffee. I responded, it's so sweet and I would love to meet you, but I have to be honest, I'm not sure why I sent that message because I really don't want a long distance relationship again. And he responded back in kind. He says, I agree with you. I really don't want a long distance relationship either, but I'm always open to new friends. So I agreed, you know, it would be kind of fun. He says, I'll show you around the island. If you come up this way, you can take the ferry out here and I'll show you around the island. And I thought that would be really fun. It'd be really intriguing to see how somebody actually lives on a small island. So I agreed, this will be fun. You know, I'll come up and we'll meet. I did go up. We did meet. He showed me around the island. We took a couple of hikes. And by the end of the day, we were both thinking, ooh, I wonder if there's any way we could make this work. Well, I'll cut to the chase. We were a little iffy back and forth those first 2 or 3 weeks. I was still working. He was retired. And I said, the thing is to make something like this work, we have to see each other on a pretty regular basis, like every other week at least. Well, I'd worked for my job long enough that I could split up my 4 weeks vacation, my sick time, my personal time, and I could take 4-day weekends pretty regularly. So I could go see him for 1 weekend, and 2 weeks later, he could come down and see me. So we did that. So I want to point out a couple of things about finding love in your golden years. You know, by now, I was 64. By now, we pretty much know what we want in a relationship, and we definitely know what we don't want in a relationship. And because we had a long distance relationship, we didn't spend a lot of time going to movies or sitting in front of the TV. We spent time talking. We text messaged every day. He FaceTimed me every night. So we saw that face-to-face communication. So we got the impression of their body language, how they talk, how they act. And so we talked about every subject under the sun in those 3 months. We talked about past relationships. We talked about finances. We talked about what we wanted in life. We talked about what our goals would be. So by the 3 months, we were pretty content with the idea that, yes, this relationship would work. And so after 3 months, I won't go into the story of the proposal and everything because then that'll make this video too long. But after 3 months of dating, he proposed. So don't give up hope. It was a long story, I'm sorry, and I tried to cut it out wherever I could. But I share that because I made mistakes in life. I settled. because I was afraid the door was going to be closed and that I would miss out on love for the rest of my life. But when I focused on being content in my life, being thankful for what I had, and being patient for what's to come, that door opened and love found me at the most unexpected time in my life. And it could be the same for you. So hit that subscribe button and follow along to see how we can have our best life yet in retirement.